to you. Hello? Hello, Dolapo. Hello, Funke. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Navigating Career Service in a Post-Pandemic. My name is Alaba Oluwafunke. I'm the head of Career Service and Alumni Relations. I would like to introduce you to Dolapo Agbede, who is going to be taking us through the webinar sections for today. Dolapo, over to you.
Thank you so much, Funke. Hello, greetings, and welcome everyone to this phenomenal session on navigating career disruption in a VUCA world. So I will just share my screen. For everyone who does not have a notepad beside them, please grab one. We're going to get a lot of tips for our careers. For anyone who has a friend who's looking for how to get ahead, this is the chance to let them know that something fantastic is going on at the Rome Business School. So just a second as I share my screen and introduce our panelists today. So screen share. Nope. Screen share, just a second. Oops. Just a second, please, everyone. Just a minor concern over here with me, and it's fine. Oh, wow. Philip, could you help me and stop my screen share, please? So just a second, I'll just try that again. But please, like I said, it is time to inform your friends, get your pen. Inform your friends, get your pen. Get ready to meet our panelist. Oops. Okay. All right. So I think for some strange reason that is not working. But okay, so just to ad-lib a bit, Foster Ofotu is our panelist today. He has an amazing career. He's a thought leader and leading a lot of things across the innovation space. His career has spanned work in Europe and in Africa. Today, in as much as very interesting for all of us, that he's a leading innovative head and capacity management guru at the African Development Bank, but that's not what we're going to be focusing on today. Rather, what we're going to be focusing on is the fact that in the business sphere, we talk about the fact that we're in a VUCA world. And what does that mean? For all business people or students in the business world, we are realizing that VUCA ultimately means a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And I mean, the pandemic has shown us what this is all about, you know. But in this same time, there has been space to have identity and innovation, and Foster Ofosu embodies this. So everyone join me in the chat box. We're using the chat box a lot. Join me in welcoming Foster in the chat box as I clap on this side for all of us, as I invite Foster to take the floor and lead us in this conversation about navigating innovative career choices in the disruptive post-COVID world. Foster, thank you for being here. The whole of the Rome Business School and the world welcomes you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolapo, and thank you particularly to Funke and the team at Rome Business School for making this this meeting possible. I do appreciate, you know, the need to not just to train, you know, ourselves as Africans, but also to continually work towards upgrading ourselves and building a career. I would like to start off by saying that if you're here today and if you have a university education and you're thinking about a career, congratulations. You are part of the 9% in Africa that has university education and can think about building a career. I think most people are just looking for a job. But having said that, I think it's important that we all aspire to build careers, not just to look for jobs. But I'll talk about this as we go along. As the Lapo has said, we would wish that this session would be extremely interactive, but for technical and organizational reasons, I would be checking the chat room to pick up questions and comments. And please, at any point, if you have a comment or agreement or disagreement, to agree on the things that I say or the things that I say, please let me hear from you from the chat room. So the next few moments, I'm going to talk about, well, two things, the recovery pathways in Africa post-pandemic, and then how the disruptions that these cause and how we can navigate the disruptions in order to build fruitful and successful careers. So this is why I'm here today. Again, not representing the African Development Bank that helps me pay my bills, but to share with you my experiences in terms of career and in terms of also keeping in mind the various disruptions that have taken place. The pandemic is just one disruption, over the long period of my career. Context matters for me in every situation, and I think it's important to establish the discussions within the context of Africa, because it's very easy to take a global perspective of what's happening with the pandemic and what could possibly happen with careers and jobs. But for me, the context is Africa. And I would want to frame the context by asking a very simple question. Is Africa ready for a post-COVID recovery? There are those who think that, yes, Africa is ready, or Africa should be ready. But then I would also want to hear your views about how that post-COVID recovery Africa looks like, because it's within that context, whenever that recovery is, that we're going to have to start rethinking our career options and our career paths. I understand that most of you from Rome Business School, and I'm sure that there are those who are not in Rome Business School who join us, are pursuing the MBA program. And I think the reason why we've gone back to do the MBA, of course, is to move ourselves from point A to point B in terms of upgrading ourselves and furthering our career options. So I'd like to start with the context. Even before the COVID pandemic, we had been talking about the new Africa, Africa transforming, moving from a hopeless continent to a hopeful continent by the mid-2010s, and then we were talking about the Africa rising. And if you listened to any presentations around that time, you'd hear about 6 out of the 10 fastest growing countries in the world were in Africa. That Africa would be the next frontier. And I used to ask, whose frontier? But these are stories that are told to us by others, and that's fine. But as Africans, I think we need to also move beyond the global perspective of Africa and what others tell us about what Africa is, and not say, well, everybody says Africa is rising, so Africa is rising. And for the same reason, everybody is saying that, COVID is such a disaster, on career and economics and everything. Or that the future of jobs would be like this, so we should buy into that. I think it's important that we as individuals and as Africans also reflect, on the realities that we face. And this is my reality of Africa, the size of the informal sector. And this is why I said that, quite a number of people in Africa may not even be thinking about a career. They may be thinking about getting a job, given that the informal sector is quite huge, about 70%. My Africa is also, the Africa where, the share of economic activities, the share of research, the share of industrial and intellectual output is quite low. My Africa is also, the Africa that has a huge youth population, projected to grow to 250 to 945 million by 2020. My Africa is also the Africa where there is a youth bulge, meaning that there is an opportunity, to sort of redefine and recreate Africa based on the size of the youth that we have today and the opportunities that we can create for them. But at the same time, I'm also looking at Africa where, depending on how you look at it, the effect of the pandemic has not yet happened as most of us predicted, for several reasons. But the situation is that these challenges, or as we see them, would continue to be there, and maybe even made a bit worse because of the pandemic. So, however it happens, the pandemic will be over. It's not the first pandemic that the world has seen, from the Spanish flu back to, I think, 1918, down to Ebola that we witnessed in parts of West Africa. This pandemic, this too will end. But when it ends, how ready are we to face the new reality, the new environment within Africa? So this is the context, that there is something happening because of the pandemic. But there was also a lot happening before the pandemic, and there will be a lot more that would happen. But it's also important that we look at, the nature of disruptions as we see today. And I'm not just talking about, the fact that most people have lost their jobs, of course, because several companies, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, have had to close down. And I'm not only talking about the fact that those who are lucky to have jobs, some of them are still working from home. But the economic impact is real. And obviously, this is not the point of this discussion I want to have with you today. But the reality is that Africa was growing, and that growth has been interrupted. And hopefully we'll be able to pick this up again. COVID-19 has eroded some of the economic gains Africa made in the last 2 decades. But we are still hopeful that going forward, 2021, 2022, depending, of course, on how we manage the waves of the pandemic, that we're going to bounce back, and we will bounce back. I'm positive. I'm also positive that the number of jobs, which was projected to be 20 million in 2020, would bounce back. The 12.5 million jobs that were lost directly in the travel and tourism sector, will bounce back. I'm an optimist. My glass is always half clean. Those young startups, that have had to close, and the couple of billion dollars of exports lost, would be gained back. I'm an optimist. So I want to begin this discussion that on the note that this too shall pass. And no matter the form that it takes, what is next for Africa, and what is next for jobs, and what is next for careers. I think this is the purpose for me. This is the purpose of this meeting today. What happens when it passes? Um, and I think I see three pathways. Um, it's likely that there would be continuous vulnerability because, as I said, the issues that we dealt with before the pandemic, some of these issues are still relevant today. They didn't disappear, just because, of COVID. But I'm also hopeful that given the resilience of Africa, and then opportunities in terms of resources, opportunities in terms of human capacity, opportunities in terms of the size of the youth, that yes, we will continue to be viable, but viability is not enough. We also need to aim to thrive, and thriving in our career is part of what's important. Disruptions always make us vulnerable. That's for sure. No matter where the disruptions reflect or where they come from. And disruptions always increase the risk of failure. Several of us had plans before COVID, and immediately the disruption set in. The fear of or the risk of failure increases. Now, generally, and thanks to my good friend, Professor Noel Tego of Northern Business School, we need to do three things, whether it's career or whether it's entrepreneurship. Note also that, the career doesn't only mean, being employed by somebody and advancing in positions and roles within organizations, but career also, would mean those who aspire to be entrepreneurs and grow in the entrepreneurship endeavors and employ more people. As I said, when I assess my vulnerability, I'm not looking just at the global impact of the pandemic. It's important because it affects us in Africa as well, but I'm assessing my vulnerability within the African context, and maybe even in your case, within the Nigerian concept. I do that within the Ghanaian concept, as a Ghanaian context. And if we're able to do that, then we're able to maintain vigilance, to be able to sense, what's going on much sooner than most people would. History has shown us that in situations like this, those who are able to see sooner and act faster are those that are going to be winners at the end of the day. And then with vigilance, we can achieve viability. And as I said, viability is not enough. We should also aim to thrive. We are told, now I'm talking about the nature of jobs. We are told that because of the pandemic and even pre-existing conditions before the pandemic, that new technologies are likely to create new jobs and boost productivity of existing ones. Globally, we're told that adopting digital technologies to boost productivity in current jobs will increase employment and create opportunities. Globally, we are told that industries, firms, and jobs will be transformed, by the usual fourth industrial revolution technologies, robotics, big data, Internet of Things, cloud computing, etc. So we're told that this would happen globally. But what I want you to think about, as we begin the discussions is it true for Africa? Are new technologies going to replace the jobs that we have in Africa? Can we adapt new digital technologies to boost productivity? And can we apply these fourth industrial revolution technologies to change the way we produce and to change the way that we consume and the way that we grow? Is it true for Africa? And again, I want to emphasize the significance of this, because being in a business school, you read a lot of books and a lot of articles that may not necessarily be contextualized, where you are. And oftentimes we get drawn into thinking that, well, this is the global scenario and that it affects us. As it may or may not affect us directly now, and it's important to think about them. But is it true for our context? And I think nature of jobs and the nature of careers should be defined within African trends first. Even when we think, because career goals, of course, and this is what Rome Business School is doing, as I listen to the video, to build new skills, upgrade skills, for the future. But are we witnessing a tale of mixed revolutions in Africa? From the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, the second, the third industrial revolution, and now the fourth industrial revolution. And I mentioned this at the start because I think, yes, your MBA is excellent, but also to think about what other skills, that you can help create, what other jobs, to make to acknowledge the future, the reality of the future of jobs. And I tell friends that, yes, we need the digital, yes, we need the fourth industrial revolution, but I'm sure those in Nigeria, as I would in Ghana or in the Ivory Coast, in Cote d'Ivoire, if you have ever been to a mechanic in any of these countries, you would know the kind of skills we need for the 21st century. If you have ever, built a house and you've needed a mason or a carpenter, you would know the kind of skills that we need for the 21st century. So what I'm trying to say here is, it doesn't matter, what MBA you have to be successful and to be able to build your own career. We need to also, go into the future, we also need to look at some of the skills that we may not have today. So going forward, and looking back, and I like to do that, looking back to move forward, I think we need to recognize that the pre-COVID challenges still exist in Africa. The challenges of energy and electricity, housing and sanitation, water, decent jobs, household income, all these are still there. Now, what we're adding on top of this in terms of building our career and building our career choices is to rethink, number one, how we address the challenges that existed before, whilst we are looking at ways of dealing with the challenges that the pandemic has brought. One of my first messages to you today is that the future is an act of disruptions, and it's not just the pandemic. The disruptions would come in various forms and will continue. The future of your career is an act of disruptions and creation. And to build a successful career or to build a successful business, to create careers for others, we need to enact the environment and its possibilities, that nothing is given. This is an assumption that I think we should make. Nothing is given in terms of, okay, this is what we have. I was telling, I think it was David today, that yes, the bandwidth is what I have. I need to deal with that. But we also need to enact, the environment and the possibilities that we want to be. Nobody is given any career. Nothing is given to you. You just luckily one part of the 9% in Africa that have what you have in terms of education and knowledge. So nothing is given. There is no defined career path for anybody. We need to create this, COVID or not, even though COVID brings its own challenges. Also, my second message is that the future environment is like a perpetual marathon. There is no finishing line. So when you finish your MBA and you get your degree or whatever degree that you're studying for, you should not think that because you have the MBA and because you are better qualified than you were 2 years ago, that you have a finishing line. There is no finishing line. I've gone through different nodes of career, but I still don't see a finishing line. Because once you see a finishing line, this is when you start, and then everybody overtakes you. So you should see the future within which your career will be built as a future of a perpetual marathon. And to win in the future, we must learn to learn and learn to unlearn and to reinvent ourselves and to reinvent the future that we want. So this is my first series of messages to you in terms of career. The disruptions will be there, but the future is an act of disruptions and creation. and that we should enact the environment and the possibilities that we want, to be able to reinvent ourselves and the future that we want. I wish I could talk only about the disruptions in Africa or in the world or in Nigeria. I mean, this affects everybody. But to stand out and to be part of that perpetual marathon, I think it's important that we see ourselves as individuals, with our own characteristics, our own traits, our own behaviors, our own mindsets as that individual, and how we fit into that process of reinventing, the environment of possibilities. So today it's not about Nigeria, it's not about Rome Business School, it's not about Africa, but it's about you, because your career is about you. It's not about the country or the challenges that we observe in the country. Finally, I think we are again privileged, because we are being given the tools to be able to reinvent this future. We are being given the tools to be able to react, maybe not just react, but to be able to foresee these disruptions and to be able to create the desired future that we want. It's good to learn. That's what we're all doing. But it's also extremely important to learn to unlearn, and again, learn to relearn, because the problem is never how to get new ideas into your mind. That's very easy. But the problem is always how to get rid of the old ones that don't make sense anymore. Okay, so learn, unlearn, and relearn, because that's the only way that you can build a successful career. The other message I want to give you is that we need to be able to shift, because it's also about reinventing the future. We need to be able to shift, our thinking patterns from traditional thinking to future thinking. Traditional thinking is about what do we have today? What kind of job do I have? What kind of bandwidth do I have? What kind of situation do I face in Nigeria or Ghana or anywhere else? But future thinking is beyond now. It's about what can be. So let's look at what can be, what careers we can have, not what we have been taught or what we have studied. It's about, even if there is nothing, that nothingness can be a space for everything. And this is what we should be aiming for. We are fortunate to have the education, for sure. We are fortunate to have the knowledge. We're fortunate to have the skills. Then what? What makes us special? What makes us different? As I just said, learning to unlearn. Some of us are fortunate because we have the knowledge and experience. But personally, I feel that the knowledge and experience only help us to understand the changing past, how things have changed. But it's that power of the imagination and the belief in oneself, and that would enable us to create the future that we desire. So all I'm saying is we need to recognize our role in the future for ourselves to start with, but also what we can do for others to build their career as well. Over the years, I've also thought that, you hear people talk a lot about what life means to them, but for me, life is only a journey through learning. Doesn't matter whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old, you stop living when you stop learning. So life is a journey through learning. What we have achieved today, whether we are working in the banking sector or whether we are HR managers or HR directors, it doesn't matter what we are. What we have achieved does not measure our true potential. Okay, it's only what we have had the chance to prove. So don't look at yourself as, okay, this is where I am now, and this is the only career path that I can pursue. Look at it that what you have done so far is only what you have had the chance to prove. And given the chance to prove in different areas, you might even have a richer career than you are doing now. And also to note that your MBA does not define you. Your bachelor does not define you. Your PhD does not define you. your work experience does not define you. And this is particularly important because we are used to, writing CVs, which are historical account of what we have done. I went to this university, I got this degree, I worked here, I got this experience. We are defined by it. We define ourselves by this. But I think to build the career of the future, we should learn to define ourselves not by what we have done, but by what we are willing and capable of learning and doing. What you have done is important, but as an employer, I'm interested in at least equally in what you are willing to learn and what you are capable of doing for me. Okay, so hold on to the MBAs and the certificates for sure. Hold on to the experience and treasure them, but learn to let these go also as you redefine yourself and reinvent the future. Rome Business School is doing a great job. I've listened to the video, the introductory video, in educating you, helping to upgrade your skill, your knowledge base and skills. But we also, and I'm still talking about learning, we also have to realize that education is only what others do for you and what others do to you. Rome Business School has the accreditation and has the ISO certification and giving the opportunity that you can learn on your own. But this is Rome Business School talking to you, educating you. But to build a career, we need to learn what to do for yourself. I remember in business school at the University of Ghana, early days for my first degree, when there was a lot of competition, everybody wanted to be the best. And I remember there was one professor, and I will never forget that she said to us, listen, 6 months after your graduation, all your friends and your family, everybody's going to ask you, what grade did you get? And everybody is so proud. I got a first class, and I got, but 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, nobody cares whether you got a first class or second class or honors. What people are going to ask you is, what are you doing now? What have you done for yourself? And this is where learning comes in. This is where building a career comes in. It's not about what Rome Business School is doing to you in terms of the great education that Rome Business School is giving you, but it's also about you learning and doing things for yourself, to do things for yourself. If you would ask me, hello?
Go ahead, Foster.
Yes, I can hear you.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. And please, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat room. I have the chat room open, so I can read the comments and address them as we go along. If you ask me, what I think you need for the future post-pandemic, and even during the pandemic, and this is in addition to the education that Rome Business School is giving you, I would say that maybe we should try to become more aware of the competencies and capabilities that we have rather than the qualifications that we have. My observation across the continent is that we are trained to think in terms of qualifications, what degree you have. But I think in all these degrees and qualifications, in the future, to ensure a fruitful and successful career, we need to learn to develop creatively. To shift. I talked about shifting the mindset from traditional thinking to future thinking. We need to be able to collaborate effectively. You don't build a career on your own. You don't build a business on your own. And this is something that we don't do very well in Africa, learning to collaborate and collaborating effectively. Sometimes we tell ourselves, we want to be like the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. We want to be like the Dangotes. We want to be like the Bill Gates. We want to be the next Einstein. I mean, these are interesting to aim for these, but at the end of the day, if you realize that none of these people that we look up to did everything on their own. They became successful because they collaborated. So we need to do that. We need to develop the competencies to be able to act responsibly. And I'm very glad listening to the video, that Rome Business School is training you in responsible business. Okay, we need to have that competence to act responsibly. We need to be able to think innovatively, to think that empty space also means something. We need to learn to think that we can look at an empty wall that everybody sees is empty. And we can say to ourselves, no, I see something nobody sees. We should develop the competencies to do that. We should develop the competence to think that when everybody is saying that seeing is believing, we say to ourselves, no, that's not what we want. We want believing is seeing. That even when nobody is seeing it, we believe it. And these are competencies that may not necessarily be taught in Rome Business School or any school for that matter. We need to be able to communicate clearly, and this is extremely important because we live in a box. That box is defined by what we see. The box is defined by how we perceive what we see and the tools that we have and how we communicate these. So we need to be able to communicate clearly. And yes, business is what we are trained to do, but we also need to be able to master that nexus of business and science. And I believe that if we're able to develop, to develop these competencies, because not all competencies are teachable, to be able to develop these competencies, it doesn't matter what the disruptions are. We will have the tools to foresee these disruptions and act earlier than everybody else, and to be able to assess our own vulnerability. So this is still about self. Some would want to define this as emotional intelligence because it's about self. It's about recognizing oneself, recognizing one's role in contributing to the environment and recreating the environment. In the end, I would say that none of you here is trained for any job, in the MBA program. You are being given tools. So the biggest tool that Rome Business School or your university or your institution where you are today, the biggest resource that you can be given is your ability to think, your ability to adapt, and your ability to evolve and to understand the environment. And of course, if you can do all these, to grow in your career. Take the job you like and learn to do it or create one. So how we find and maintain jobs are changing, how we work changing, what skills we need for the future are changing, and even the relevance of the MBA program is changing. So I still don't see any questions in the chat room. That can be a good thing.
I have some questions for you, Foster. Yes.
Okay.
So fantastic discussion so far. Just to do a quick recap, the first big thing that popped for me from what you were saying from your presentation is that you have a positive outlook for Africa. That in itself is fantastic and is cheering, and it gives us hope that if we apply ourselves the right way, the future is bright. The second thing that you also said that really stood out for me was the fact that we're very historical in the way we present ourselves as we look for our next opportunities. Because again, the topic for today is navigating viable careers for ourselves as we navigate a post-pandemic event in the world. And of course, we're looking for better. We're looking for better incomes. We're looking for avenues for personal growth and development and impact in our workplaces. So that was great. I also am very aware that you lead an innovation hub that has, which I'd like you to tell us a bit about. I am also aware that in the course of bringing your competencies to the African continent, you have been in at least 40 African countries, taking your knowledge to those spaces as you evaluate where they are and the next things they need to do from the point of view of innovation and capacity management. So please, could you tell us a bit about this? So the innovation initiative that you are leading, and then of course, whatever tips you have for us that will make us like literally ready for a career of our dreams. based on leveraging the tools that we're given from Rome Business School and life itself.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. My personal, well, there's a personal interest in innovation, but there's also a professional interest that we need to be innovative. And I don't say this lightly. I know that everybody and their mother is talking about innovation in Africa. You know, at the last count, there were over 700 innovation hubs in the continent. But I don't take this lightly. You know, traveling across the continent and also meeting young people, you know, who are doing everything that they have been told to do, and they are doing it right, but are still in that valley of death. You know, they are still at a point where their startups cannot grow, their entrepreneurship ventures do not grow. So I started to ask myself, okay, so what is it, you know, that a young person, a young man or woman in Africa would need? What is that extra mile that we need to take this one person? And I realized a few things. Number one, that, and I'm not getting into a theoretical discussion here. Number one, we seem to think of innovation as entrepreneurship. So anybody starts something and they are innovative. And because of this, we put a lot of emphasis in our universities, in the public sector, in the private sector, on entrepreneurship. So everybody is training an entrepreneur. And after a while, I started to think, wait a second. The African I know, if I would create a persona called an African, the African I know is the most entrepreneurial to start with. Okay, entrepreneurship keeps the continent going. And I don't mean entrepreneurship like having a formal business, because the informal sector is very big. And then I started to think that if we import something from China or from the US or from the UK or from Finland, and you give it to the average African to sell, the average African will sell this. It doesn't matter if he has to go and stand by the roadside and sell these. He will find a way to sell these. So then I started to realize actually that maybe the issue is not the lack of entrepreneurial skills, even though I do admit that we can formalize it sometimes, you know, but do we need to formalize it, you know, as it exists everywhere else? So I thought that in order to help the young African man and woman, we need to think beyond entrepreneurship, and we need to think beyond business. You know, we need to think beyond, you know, having a financial capacity. We need to think beyond having managerial and strategic capacity, you know, to run a formal business, because we don't have these formal businesses. But rather that we should emphasize, you know, the developing these competencies for these young men and women to be innovative in terms of creating products that make sense, not creating products because everybody's creating products, and to have ready products, you know, before going out and say I have a business. Because what I observed in the several countries I've traveled to also is many of our young men and women are running around with projects, not businesses. And they're running around with projects seeking funding for these projects. But no investor is interested in your project. It's just what it is, it's a project. So what I started, and this is also where my second cap comes in, that, you know, I wanted to give back based on my experience and knowledge and how I sense the future. The young African to think beyond entrepreneurship, you know, and to gain the competences that help us to create and innovate and deploy. And I can tell you that it gives me a lot of personal satisfaction to be able to have these engagements, you know, to listen to be able to help build on the entrepreneurship instinct that most Africans have. I don't know if this answers your question. So beyond the cap that I wear, you know, as a capacity development officer for the African Development, I also, you know, as time permits, you know, and as the opportunity permits, I like to create these environments that not just to have the discussions, but also to coach and to train and to hold hands and to mentor the young Africans to develop themselves and to create jobs that others can build their careers. I hope this answers your question. Okay. So as we're waiting for more questions to come in, I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why we get worried by the pandemic, one of the reasons why sometimes we are afraid to make the career choices that that would be the best for us, is because we are afraid of failure. I mentioned that earlier, that we are afraid of failure. And I think it's okay, to be afraid of failure. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I want, everybody here, including myself, to always remember that failure does not mean that you did not put in sufficient effort. Failure does not mean that you do not have sufficient knowledge and skills. It does not mean that you did not try enough. You can still try hard, and you can still face some failure. So it's okay to fail. And part of the competence that we need to build is the ability to cope with failing. Okay, so as much as we are celebrating the successful ones, you go to any event in Africa and everybody's talking about being the next Bill Gates or the next Zuckerberg, as I said. But we also have to recognize that maybe if Zuckerberg had started Facebook today, maybe he wouldn't have been as successful as he is today. Maybe if he had started Facebook in Africa, maybe he wouldn't be as successful as he is today. So the point is, we need to see failing as part of the process of winning. And sometimes we are in a job, we're in a career that we feel that we are not so successful, but that may be the one that would propel us to even more successful ones. As the Chinese say, if you fall down 7 times, you must learn to get up 8 times. Okay. So failure is part of that. Any more questions or comments?
Yes, yes, one more. So like one of the part of the advice you gave us was number one, it's okay to stand out as an individual, but the real smart way to get ahead in this disruptive future that we have, present and future we have, is to actively collaborate. You also mentioned that we don't do that so well in Africa. Could you expatiate on this? And I'd like you to baseline your answer on the collaborative effort you have on the innovative program you have right now, because I know you've pulled in, people have bought into the vision and they're contributing their competencies into that program, and how it has moved the whole thing forward and reinforcing that message of collaboration, which is still a bit alien in the way we behave in Africa. Could you tell us more?
Yes, I think baseline, as you say, we're unfortunately many of our societies, and I'm not talking about the whole of Africa, because it's a big continent of several countries and several subgroups. We are not trained to collaborate. We are trained to compete. Yes. And we see this, in the way that we are brought up. I mean, I remember being in primary school or even secondary school in Ghana. You have an exam and everybody's gone like this, yeah? Because you have to cover what you're doing. You go to a library and the book that is supposed to be for everybody, you go and you realize that the chapter you want to read is torn out of the book, because somebody feels that they need to take that out, so they will do better than you. We are trained to think that our name is the most important. So you find entrepreneurs across the continent who are in multiple businesses, none of them very successful, but it has their name. So I think part of it culturally comes from the way that we are socialized, as young people. It's about me, 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 me. The sad thing is, I don't know if it's sad, is that yes, you might be successful in a few businesses by going alone, But again, as the African proverb says, that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. You know. So the sad, and I say it's sad because, you know, culturally we know these things in Africa. You know, the communal nature of how we live and how we share. The Ubuntu philosophy. You know, I am because we are. But for some reason, when we formalize this, when we get into the formal structures, you know, through school, we are trained to compete and to be selfish. So yes, I'm passionate about innovation. Now coming back to your question, I'm passionate about innovation. And I can say reasonably that I'm qualified to discuss innovation and to push for innovation. And I know also that I'm willing to give as much time as I can. But I also know that there are people like me who are knowledgeable and experienced and passionate about innovation who are also looking for that opportunity, you know, to give back. And giving back doesn't mean teaching in a university or running an innovation hub. So what I did when the pandemic struck and everybody was at home and everybody was wondering, okay, what to do next, you know, was to call on a few friends and like-minded people, you know, and I said, listen, I have this idea. I have this idea to train African innovators who are already on that path of creating something, to give them that extra competence, you know, to be able to get themselves out of that valley of death. And when I reached out to them, I said to them, listen, I know that if you ask any African innovator, they'll tell you, well, we don't have access to finance, and we cannot give them all the finance. But if we can, somebody has a microphone on, but if we can build their competencies to the extent that they will make better products that they believe in, maybe we can help them to get the finance that they want. So I reached out, and within a couple of weeks, you know, I got 64 or so friends, you know, from 23 countries, you know, who said, yes, we want to give our time to this. And for me, that was an eye-opener because I didn't expect that there will be that many that would want to collaborate, you know, to make this, to make the innovation program happen. So yes, there are still those who want to collaborate, but the more people that we can get to collaborate around the same issue, the better we can become as individuals, but also the better we can make the whole society become. Okay.
Thank you so much, Foster. You would not believe that the time is, we're like 8 minutes to the top of the hour. So that means this has gone so interestingly, smashingly well. And I'm sure this question
we're still not getting any questions from the audience.
Because they're kind of like passing them to me directly. So people are interested in this innovation cohort you're running with your with other persons like you who want to give back, because you know we're clear that you know the competence bundle, if we look at it through the SCATE model, it means you have to have skills, knowledge, ability, training, experience, and you and 62 others are making this available for innovators and people who really want to have a satisfying, full-bodied career on the African continent. I am aware you have a cohort running right now, your first cohort. If people would want to participate in the next one, do you have any visibility of when this can come up? And then if people want to reach you, what's the easiest way to be reached so that, you know, what's your preferred way for everyone to reach out? And then, of course, we all want to be part of learning from you and 62 others and more. How do we get this done?
Well, I've just posted information about innovation on the in the chat. And I think, you know, it's modeled in a way, you know, that everybody brings their experiences and their future outlook into this. And even though, you know, I think we got about 300 applicants, you know, when we sent out word on social media, and we managed to select 50. And I think in the end, 20 or 25, went through all the master classes and all. So yes, with the friends and like-minded, yes, we are looking at, pushing forward to the next cohort. But having said that, personally, it doesn't have to be, the cohort starting before anybody reaches out. Anybody can reach out. Anybody can reach out anytime at any stage of the process. Because innovation and creativity is a process. Something that you decide I start today and end tomorrow. So at the beginning of the presentation, I did share my contacts, and I'm always ready and willing to have a discussion with innovators, about and entrepreneurs and career. Naturally, I don't know everything, and I'm glad that I don't. But I do have the network of individuals, who I can reach out, if there are questions or comments I cannot deal with. So I have all the channels, that I can be reached here, as much as time will allow, because I strongly believe in the future of the continent, and I believe in the future of the youth, and I believe in the resilience and entrepreneurial nature of our young men and women. And I believe that our countries and our universities and our business schools are doing wonderful work in getting these innovators and entrepreneurs a helping hand. But there is a little bit that all of us can do also, to add to what's already being thrown at us. So these are the contacts. There are a few. I've seen a couple of comments in the chat room.
Okay.
Emmanuel, across Africa and especially Nigeria, at the moment, insecurity and I don't know the word, because economic situation is posing a big threat to entrepreneurs to access funds. Emmanuel, I'm sorry to say this, but and I appreciate the difficulty of the environment that we live in. But I also know that, even in countries, in Europe and other parts of the world, where the perception of insecurity is, entrepreneurs still have difficulties accessing funds. So I'm not belittling the seriousness of, of the political instabilities in our continent. I mean, these are real, but even within this, those who can sense this and those who can develop the competence will still succeed. Entrepreneurs globally have issues of accessing funds. And I think, as I said, part of that competence within, the difficult challenges, part of the competence we need to have is basically that we need to develop, products that make sense and technologies that make sense. That makes sense, meaning that somebody would buy, that has a commercial potential. And we need to believe in these, because an investor is not interested in, and this is also the other thing, sometimes when I talk to young people and you ask them, okay, please tell me what you are doing, they'll start with, oh, I've seen this problem in Ghana and I want to help solve it. I've seen this problem in Nigeria and I want to help solve it. I've seen this problem, and I tell them, shut up. Your job is not to save Kenya or Ghana or Nigeria. That's not your job. That's why we elect public officers to do that. But your job, no matter what you do, you need to find that person, that persona who would want to buy what you have. So yes, the problems are there, Emmanuel, but there are also competencies that you can develop to be able to navigate these problems as they exist. The fact that there are these problems doesn't mean that you cannot succeed in a career or in entrepreneurship. You just have to do it differently. I don't know if that answers Emmanuel's question. Timothy have a question. With so much unemployment in our continent, will you say that Africa is truly ready for disruptive career plus the pandemic? Yes, you're right. I mean, Timothy, there's actually a projection that if Africa would continue to grow, and this was a projection, I think in 2019, if Africa would continue to grow the way we were growing, at that rate, by the year 2030, there will still be 100 million Africans who will be unemployed. This is also the sad reality. Okay. Unfortunately, the pandemic has made it even worse. So I'm sure, if you would go back to this research, we may find out that they're likely to be more unemployed. But the problem is not only because of the economic growth and lack of jobs. Yes, there are jobs, but there's a mismatch. But what worries me is that across the continent, the young people are being told to get themselves into entrepreneurship and create their own jobs. Okay, which is in itself is not a bad thing. But the bigger problem is that we are taught to create our own jobs by creating our own businesses, but we are not taught to grow these businesses. And if you have a business as an entrepreneur, Timothy, and you are not growing the business to employ more people, it doesn't matter how much our economies are growing. That mismatch, we will grow, but the job creation may not match that. I'll give you an example of Ghana. If you take a Ghanaian successful entrepreneur into a boardroom, and ask the person, what did you do to be successful? Okay, or when I say this, I like to compare different regions. If you take an American entrepreneur and a Ghanaian entrepreneur and an European entrepreneur, and you say, tell us your story, how were you successful? And I like to tell this story a lot, Timothy. The American, in all likelihood, might say that, well, when we started with $200. And today we have a turnover of $200 million and we employ 5,000 people. This is the story, so the American is successful as an entrepreneur. I've grown from $200 to 200 million and I employ 5,000 people. Now, the European might be the Lacoste story. And the European might say, well, when we started, I started with my friend. We started from my basement, my garage. But today we have 50,000 employees. And we have factories in 50 countries. This is the story of the European. Now, I don't want to say the African, I'm a Ghanaian, so I can say the Ghanaian. If you would ask the Ghanaian the same story, the Ghanaian would say, 10 years ago when we started, it was just me and my wife. We were very poor. We couldn't even afford to buy food for the children. Our children had to go to school without shoes. But today, by the grace of God, we have 10 houses. We have 15 cars. All our children are in the best universities in Europe. Praise the Lord. Okay. So now, if we're getting our entrepreneurs to create jobs, and our entrepreneurs are not growing the businesses to create jobs, because you have to remember, job creation is a private sector activity. It's not a government activity. The government can only create that environment. So as much as we are conscious of the challenges and the issues around poverty in Africa and what the governments can do, we also have a responsibility that we can create the private sector environment, that we aim to grow, and not to build multiple mansions and buy multiple cars and send our family to universities in Europe and North America. Emmanuel has another question, apart from the impact of COVID on businesses. What do you think will be the direction for entrepreneurs?
I think it's just one question. It's just one question. Okay. I just had to type in differently. So if I just can ask now, right? So yes. Recently in part of this country, we saw some real show of affluence by some young entrepreneurs in this country. I mean, over last weekend, it was very heavy on the social media. Mm-hmm. I'm sure even in Ghana, you guys also saw it from that distance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so clearly I looked around and I see those who were in the middle of these actions. I could not see anyone that works with the biggest multinationals in Nigeria. I did not see any government official. Of course, I know they might not be able to display anything there. But all I saw were young, successful entrepreneurs in that space. I mean, all the display of money and all of that. Yeah. So for you, and what you do, supporting us to become great entrepreneurs and all of that, is it just enough to help us to get into that space? Don't you think there should also be a next step For instance, these guys are very successful, but I'm not
Absolutely.
sure you will mentor an entrepreneur into that space. So maybe after the success story, should there not continue to be a handshake, a level of engagements that will build them further rather than?
I did not see the event you're talking about, but I understand what you mean, and this is what I just spoke about. You know, that because our mindset is that entrepreneurship is to create your own job and to do good for yourself. You know, we don't see other things that entrepreneurship needs to do, because entrepreneurship is about, if from a business school perspective, entrepreneurship is about three things. It's about starting a business, it's about making profits, and it's about growing. Okay, but for some reason, we can start a business because we are very entrepreneurial. We can make the profit because whether it's legally or not, I hope it's always legally. But the one thing that we don't do is grow that business as much as we grow ourselves. And if I'll be talking to a Nigerian entrepreneur, and I have met quite a number of Nigerian entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs and interacted with, the question I always ask them is, what do you want success to look like for you? Okay, because in many parts of Africa, we are not able to define the success of entrepreneurship. If you go to my country, they'll tell you he's such a successful entrepreneur, you should see the car that he's driving. Is that success? You know, oh, he's such a successful entrepreneur, you should see the mansion that he has built. Is that success? So as I mentor entrepreneurs, and I would do the same in Nigeria or any other part of Africa, that we need to help redefine success for the entrepreneur. That success should not be how much money you have made, you know, for yourself and your family. But success should also be defined in terms of how much products you can bring to the market to make the lives of people in your society better. How many jobs that you can create to make the lives of others better. I hope this answers your question. Emmanuel.
Lovely answer. I'm sure Emmanuel is happy with that answer.
Thank you.
So I'll be calling up the Career Services rep, Funke, shortly. Foster, all I can say is thank you for walking what you talk. Thank you for being transparent with giving us your contacts. I am sure for those who were not able to ask questions, because, you know, honestly, you gave some perspectives that maybe people are still mulling over, and I'm sure a lot of people will be reaching out to you. So thank you for being deeply honest about navigating what the real future for us, I mean, coming from us, for us should be as Africans. My biggest takeaway, especially in the last things you said, was I really need, as a person myself, to define what does success mean to me. That's my biggest takeaway. And I look forward to the opportunity as an individual. And I encourage every one of us all to reach out to Foster and let's see how we can redefine success and really, truly make Africa what we want it to be. From me, Foster, I thank you. Funke, from Career Services Rome Business School, I leave the floor and our amazing panelists in your capable hands. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolapo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Foster. We really appreciate this section on future of a career success and recovery in Africa. We really appreciate this. I want to say thank you. I would like to invite our program director to give us a closing remark on this. I don't know if any other person have anything to say or any question before our director of programs comes up to give us the closing remarks. Dr. Adalbi.
Mute. Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Foster. You actually did beautiful for us here. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir. To Dolapo Agbede, thank you so much for moderating this session. I want to say a very big thank you to you. I was like please don't run out. This is still Rome Business School, and we really appreciate the time you've put together to help deliver this beautiful discourse in Rome Business School. Indeed, the two major things that hit me while you were discussing was the fact that there's a need for personal growth, and that there's an important part where collaboration plays a part, so more like networking. So for me, I want to say a very big thank you to you, because you have basically done the main part of the job for us by letting everyone realize the importance of these, especially in these times where there's some form of disruption in ways of handling things in the world. This remains Rome Business School. I am Dr. Adobe Arigzo. I'm the program director of Rome Business School. And I would say that Foster has actually helped explain to you all that RBS is basically an avenue for you to actually explore the possibilities of expanding yourself in terms of personal growth. And definitely, this remains a platform for proper collaboration and networking between people, really, not just within yourselves as students, but we have a larger community of faculty, we have a larger community of experts and all of that. So I really want all of you to realize that this is just a very beautiful session, one that you take out a whole lot of learning and begin to run with it. I bring particularly special thanks and gratitude from my boss, Professor Antonio Ragusa, all the way from Italy, and from my country director, Dr. Akanazu Humphrey. They are here with us in spirit and in body and soul still. Many thanks. We want to let you all know that Rome Business School is actually that place where you could consider the joint duo of personal growth and collaboration, as we offer lots of programs such as our Masters in Business Administration. We have the International Human Resources Management. We have the Agribusiness Management to help out with the farmers at this point in time where we need to look at the smart ways of doing things. Also, we have the Marketing and Communications and the Marketing and Sales, where we can see that a lot of marketing has moved from what we see in terms of door-to-door and face-to-face to a lot of online and innovative methods, down to the data science management, where you exhibit a lot of skills and you begin to look at how you can bring about a lot of ideas in terms of business intelligence to run your business and to grow things from one stage to another. I will not forget the entrepreneurship and innovation, which is, I would say, one major place where most of the entrepreneurs would have been able to take out a lot of learning from this discourse. I'm sure many of us don't know that we also have the DBA in strategic management here in Rome Business School. So what am I saying? I'm saying the Doctorate of Business Administration, which is the professional certificates like the PhD. So PhD is a bit academic, but here in Rome Business School, we'll also have the DBA, and we are very much available to ensure that you can have the very best of learning, not just from Italy, but also from our Russian counterparts on the DBA program. I want to say a big thank you. Has blanked out. Has blanked out. Are you on? I sincerely don't know what has just happened. I apologize for that. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone. I would say thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to Rome Business School, and please do have an excellent afternoon further.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you so
Career
much.
Services is over to you now.
Thank you very much for participating in the program. We really appreciate and hope to see more of you in the next webinar program. Thank you, Dr. Foster and Mr. Foster. Thank you, Dolapo, for participating, for joining us in this program. Thank you, everyone. I would like to say thank you to our faculty who also participated in this program. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you some other time. Ciao, ciao. Do have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Okay.